Welcome to our first ever episode of Sparesbox Unrolled. In this week's episode, we have a run-in with Highway Patrol, the Jameses go on a date, and we get our rims polished.
I've never been to an event on the main straight of Eastern Creek where the cars weren't moving. I reckon next time we bring a couple of small pebbles or a speed bump and cull the number of stanced full-size sedans on 14s next time.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of car events you can go to these days where the entire thing can be derailed if you put a tiny few grains of dirt at the entry or, a movable speed bump. But I think Beat the Blue this year was probably one of them. But, it was okay. It was a good night.
A lot of individual builds.
Yeah, lots of. Well, that's one way to put it. There's a lot of.
Nice.
How can we say it? Strange design inspirations going on, but it was still cool. It was raising money for a good charity. A really good cause, Police Legacy, and it was probably one of the most positive experiences I've had with the Highway Patrol in quite a long time, if I'm honest.
Yeah, the police officers were lovely people to talk to. They were all about it, and probably the nicest people we did talk to the whole night.
They must be getting paid a lot of money to be nice to us because it wouldn't be easy, I tell you that much for free. Anyway, we were lucky enough to go. We spent the night there. We had a few cars on show. We took the Racecar even, which was pretty wild. But instead, we built it fast, towed it to the racetrack, and then parked it stationary for 6 hours. But hey, look, you win some, you lose some.
No one told me about that until we got to the racetrack.
Like, James, trust me, we're going to the racetrack. It's going to be heaps of fun. We didn't tell him that we were just going to hard park.
I knew the night was doomed as soon as we went to the back entrance.
Oh, well, James, there's one thing you're familiar with, it's the back entrance, I'll tell you that much. But anyway, we were lucky enough to go, and we filmed the whole thing, so take a look.
Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this the 7 C's. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. Went off for my style and identity. Better bounce back and get the cheddar cheese. I guess that's why they envy me. On track, now we going way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Way up. On track, now we going way up. Now we going way up. Now we going. On track, now we going way up. Now we going way up. Now we going.
We're standing on the main straight here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and I thought I'd grab Steve, who's not only the event organiser of Beat the Blue, but he's actually also a New South Wales police officer. Steve, thanks for joining us.
No, thanks, mate. I appreciate you guys coming down.
Mate, it's a pleasure. This is an insane event. You were just telling me you usually get 6,000 to the real thing, and not this many to this show and shine, but there's a huge crowd here and such diverse cars.
Yeah, I think people just want to get out. It's great to have so many different cars here. I spent a lot of years racing Jap cars, and we got pigeonholed with that, but as people got to know that we were serious, we get this variety. It's great.
It is fantastic. It really is. Now, Beat the Blue is obviously not just about coming here and looking at cars, it's for a very good cause. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So it's kind of Beat the Blue's dual layered. So our main goal is to get kids off the street and on the track. So there's two types of car people. There's ones that like to drive and there's ones that like to sit next to their car. So we try and cater for both. So we run an event where you get to drive your car against the police, and we run an event like tonight that's just a social thing. We get to park up and just talk to your mates. And it's all about showing the community and showing the police that not all car people are the same, not all cops are the same, and if we can show both groups that we can do it the right way, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess getting the people that might be tempted to drive quickly on the road
off the street onto a track like this, a safe environment, meeting, greeting, mingling with police officers that, you know, they might not have had a fantastic experience with in the past. I guess it's all about changing that and bringing people closer together as a community. And the New South Wales Police legacy as well, we're raising money for that tonight.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the big things is we didn't want it to be about money. So every dollar we make all goes to legacy, and they take care of the families of police officers that have passed away. So that's not something you ever want to need, but it's really, the work they do is amazing. So every dollar we make all goes to legacy.
Fantastic. All right, and here's an off the cuff one. Favourite car here tonight?
Oh, I'm a Porsche fiend, so probably that grey Carrera S over there. I spent a lot of years racing Evos, so I'm a bit partial to that, but yeah, I love a nice Porsche.
Same as our boss. He'll love to hear that. Steve, mate, thanks for joining us. It's a fantastic thing you're doing here. We're going to have a walk around, check out these cars. Thanks for your time.
No, thanks, all the best, and thanks again for coming down. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Did you know you could pay $5,000 for a set of 13s? Did you know you could pay $3,000 for a set of cast 14s just because they look sort of like a mini light, but they're older? So having a cup of tea with James from Driving Solutions sounded like a lot more fun than looking at some stanced boxes from the 1980s. So that's what I decided to do instead. G'day guys, welcome back to Sydney Motorsport Park. We've got some pretty interesting Fords behind us here. I've got James from Driving Solutions here with me as well. James, what are we here doing, mate?
Well, they're very standard cars at the moment, so we're doing some really cool things with Motorsport Australia this year and some young kids. So we basically want to try and get a bit more grip in the rear end. So I thought let's look at some handbrakes and see how accurate we can do and what we can actually achieve out of these cars.
Yeah, all right. Sounds like a fun time.
Oh, so you're only pouring your own? I'll just help myself then, should I?
You know where the glass is, mate.
So realistically, like with a standard car, you pull the handbrake on and it's just a nice sort of slow drift. I guess with a bit of handbrake and a bit of help, we might be able to get those turns really tight and accurate.
All right, so the factory stuff in these things, not much chop?
Do perfectly for the park on a hill start or to get your license, but when we're out on the skid pan doing precise things, we need to step it up.
All right. Well, I reckon we jump in these and see how they get on in factory form.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so should we go for a drive?
I reckon so, mate. Do your worst.
Well, let's see what this actually does. So, obviously focus, standard, ST. We're just going to go for a drive along here, and then we'll actually have a bit of a play with this handbrake here.
All right.
So I'll just step off the gas, turn it.
Wow. Mate, I almost spilled my tea.
Mate, I think this is the closest thing I'm going to get to a donut today in this. Do your worst. Got to remember to turn it off as well. How's that tea hanging in there?
Mate,
nice angle.
I'm doing pretty good.
Mate, tell you what, there's some good angles going on there. Wish I had comp cam. So you can really see how you've got to put so much steering on to get round. So I guess with a nice hydraulic handbrake, you'd just be bang it on and then away you go.
Yeah, you can pull it harder, longer, faster.
Oh mate, and look at that.
Oh.
I thought I'd give you a wash down. You good?
Sam Young.
So do you reckon I need a bit of Maguire's now?
Yeah, do you have some for us? You weren't going to let me off easy, were you?
Hey, I'm confident as well. Inside, quick.
Oh, I smell like tea bags, mate, but besides that, it's all right.
Is that what they mean by teabagging?
I don't think so.
But I'm glad that was white with one.
I hadn't spilled a drop until he did that.
We've had teabagging in the workplace, we've got scolding. Yeah, it's all going all right.
We used coolant so we could get past 100 degrees.
So here we are in the old-fashioned hot hatch challenge. Like Fiesta ST's always been up there. Now we're in manual. So two things to do, handbrake, and I guess the big thing is let's see how it actually works. So if we just come in here a bit hotter now.
Got blinding. Come on, mate.
That's not working well, is it? And can you see already how this handbrake's been used once or twice too many times already and there's no bite in it whatsoever?
Yeah.
So I guess that's where the hydraulic will keep that consistency up.
Yeah, nice reliable pull every time you want to use it.
Well, that's a lot like Sam, isn't it?
No, minus the reliable.
Let's give it another shot, shall we?
All right. Oh.
I think I got burned.
I'm sorry.
I don't think you really are sorry. I think we need a clean up in aisle 3. Can we get some Maguire's? Stat. So, what do you reckon? Hydraulic handbrake, hot hatch, hot cross buns. How could we go wrong?
Maybe a thermos, one of those locking lids.
Locking lids, those spill cups would be really good.
It'd be fantastic, mate, because as much as I like spending time here at Sydney Motorsport Park, it's usually not for the purpose of drying out in the sun.
Yeah, so I reckon we load up, get back to the workshop and see you back here shortly.
Let's get it done.
Well, there comes a time in every man's life when he needs to see another bloke's tip, and I'm hoping you've got something for us this week.
You know I've always got a tip for you.
Oh, amen.
All right, it's time for Just the Tip. Wait, have we already done that? Welcome to Just the Tip. If you go four-wheel driving through mud holes and bog holes and you're a bit of a...
Sam Young.
Make sure to inspect your brake calipers, namely the dust boots on here. So make sure they aren't torn and your calipers aren't seized, or you'll end up doing what I'm doing and replacing them, which is sick. Unless you're one of those forward drivers who are into replacing stuff at great expense and time cost to yourself, in which case, don't check them, and then you get to enjoy this on your weekends. And that was another episode of Just the Tip.
Now, it's actually funny because the 80 series is parked out there somewhere in dire need of new calipers all around and brake pads. So I'll be like, bada bing, bada boom, maybe I'll bring it in for James to work on. And James will be like,
Sam.
and I'll be like, and then we go, well, speaking of
Sam.
forward drives, let's take a look at this
Sam.
thing up here. It looks like a Nissan Patrol had sex with a Dodge Ram and then spat out an inbred
Sam.
an alien. Speaking of forward drives that need attention, James is on his phone looking at, is that cat porn? So speaking of forward drives that need some attention, we're going to talk about it in this next segment, which is where we talk about the news from the week. And this is probably going to get you all sorts of riled up because Toyota, well, I don't think it was Toyota, some mysterious man in Japan has leaked photos of the new 300 series Land Cruiser. And
Jesus!
Sam Young.
it's, I know, the initial photos are confronting. There's no other way to beat around the bush. And
They beat something.
Yeah, it's sort of like Toyota went, the Y62 Patrol is selling well and the Rams, are selling well, so we're going to take the front of it. And the back of it, unfortunately, is not that much better looking. It's sort of Lexus-esque.
Yeah, Lexus / the new Kia Carnival, but jacked up and,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
Yeah, so there's been so much speculation around engine combos and all that kind of stuff about it. I've seen some interior photos and it is nice, you'll like it. It's got a nice big screen in it so you can have all your cat videos playing while you're forward driving.
Oh yeah, when I do all the forward driving.
Exactly, James is very passionate about forward driving.
That looks to be really good for it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. There's lots of speculation. All we have is leaked photos, we have no internet, no actual proof of what it's going to be. So
Well, that's something your 80 and that has in common.
Oh, leaks.
It's been leaked.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, you've got some news for us, which
I do have some news.
I wish I was surprised by seeing this land on the desk, but it just wasn't.
Big shock to everybody out there. German cars have a fault.
Who would-
This time it's an airbag problem. Of course, it's a
Mercedes making
safety fault.
mistakes.
Actually, I reckon this isn't really a fault. It's not a manufacturer's fault anyway. This is more of a feature. I like to call this Darwinism. If you're dumb enough to buy something like that, then this is kind of what you get coming.
Yeah,
In fact, this might be a great sort of future car for people who think the 300 looks good.
Yeah, this is true.
If you like that, buy
Yeah.
this and load your defective children into the back of it.
Yeah, this is true. Well, that's not even the GLA. That's the next thing. This is so. If you buy the GLA, an airbag's going to kill you. And if you put your kids in the back of an A-Class, they're probably going to die. It's as simple as that.
Natural selection.
I don't know how Mercedes has quite managed to do it, but they're really trying to. Well, they're looking after the population. Let's say that.
Now, my favourite part of Not the News is the bit where it ends and we get to move on to a different segment. Because let's face it, we don't talk about anything on the news that people are genuinely interested in, including us.
This is true. This is true.
And for us, the next part's the 300ZX.
Which is an exciting part.
Yeah, I'm always happy to see more progress on that. And this time we get a rim job
Oh, must be nice.
and a brake job.
Oh, stop it.
Alright, so we're down at Barrel Bros, which needs no introduction to anybody in Australia who's getting a set of wheels restored. We've got Mark here with us. We've got our set of wheels that we picked up from Benny's Custom Works just last week for our Z31 project. Now Mark, you've got them here on this machine. What are we looking for here? What are you doing?
Buckles.
Buckles.
We're just making sure they're straight, basically. And that's the first thing we do. Any set of wheels that comes in here, doesn't matter what it's for, the first thing it does is go on here and we check them that they're straight. Just no wheels leave Barrel Brothers bent.
And presumably there'd be circumstances where the barrel itself is unsalvageable and you would have to rebarrel.
Generally, it's if you've got Japanese-made wheels or European-made, they're usually pretty good, especially the three-piece stuff. The quality of the alloy will be good enough, and even if they're really like egg-shaped and bent, as long as they're not cracked, they're generally salvageable. Unless you've Tarkoed it over onto the centre,
Yeah, but we didn't.
Then it's like fling.
I'm sure plenty of people have bought wheels for top dollar, expected them to be perfect, and then found out later on that they're no good. Thankfully, Benny hooked us up on these, so.
Ben, because Ben gets a lot of wheels and he really searches for stuff and he finds really good sort of obscure stuff as well. So yeah, I like the stuff that Ben brings in.
So when you get a set of wheels in, besides looking for the buckles, what else do you kind of assess from initial outlook as to the condition and what work you have to do to a wheel to get it good?
Oh right, so with something like this in a full three-piece, the seal doesn't matter, little buckles like that doesn't matter. You're mainly looking at what sort of quality the lips are, how the centre is. Make sure the centre's not bent. So when you spin your wheel, you want that going in a straight line. Right, if that's going like that, in the bin.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be fixed, but it's problematic, and because they're a cast centre, they're hard to straighten.
It'd be reasonably labour intensive, I imagine, to fix that.
Well, these ones they've got a fair bit of corrosion that's got in under the paint, and they're black.
Yeah. I think someone's rattle canned those. It looks terrible.
It's the worst look. Rattle can black is just terrible. Don't do it. Well, the other thing about it is if you're painting your wheels black, especially something like this, that, I know it doesn't look like it at the moment, but that's a really good design.
Yeah, well, in my mind, you paint something you don't want to see black.
Exactly.
If it's a good looking wheel, why would you paint it black?
The minute you put it on the car, it's got a shadow behind you, you can't see it.
That's it. So hopefully we can pick out something a little more appropriate for this.
Brake dust colour. Right there. You can. That's where that's where you're looking, here and here. Make sure that they're not going up and down, which it is on this one. And that is actually, if you're watching really closely, that is actually bent into about here. But that's okay, that'll straighten up. Oh, the other thing you're looking for is to make sure that is running true. If that's going in and out, that means the centre's bent, that's not good. Yeah, nice and straight. Yeah, this is where somebody's tried to seal it. The biggest drama with the bigger stuff is your low profile tyre.
Yep.
So there's a lot of leverage between, if you imagine the centre of the wheel and right out here.
Fulcrum to like the
yeah, exactly. So then you run heaps of camber in it, low profile tyre.
And you've got a lot of load.
And then you put it on a Commodore.
You possibly could machine it, but it'd have to be a lot of setup. You'd have to machine a flat spot on the back, like bore it through the landing.
But what about our small shank ones?
Yeah, but I think you have to still have to do the same thing.
So we just maybe put a little nick just in there for it to sit in.
Yeah, just notch it.
Yeah.
A little notch for it to clearance it so it sits flat.
Away you go. That's a lot better than that one.
To keep your Z32 brakes.
So what the problem is, that is collecting on the caliper on the way around, just the shape of it. So what we're going to do is throw in one of these valves, which drops that curve down nicely, and we'll clear the brakes. But we've got to put a little notch just in there. It's just resting on the edge of the rim. So we'll put a little notch in there for that to sit in, and then away you go. And you can still pump it up and everything. Good to go.
All right, my job for today with our Z31 300ZX is to rebuild these horrible looking calipers that we have here. Now, any Nissan aficionado will know that these are the aluminium calipers from a Z32 300ZX. They are quite a good caliper. They're reasonably light as well. We also have a set of cast iron S14 ones here. The weight difference is huge. We've got a set of scales here, so we might show you that later. But they just don't look much chop. So we're going to pull them apart. We're going to rebuild them. I've got a kit here we're going to put through them. And while we're there, we're going to paint them up properly in a nice vibrant color so they pop behind our wheels that Barrel Bros are restoring for us at the moment. Get them on our car. We're using a R33 GDR front disc coupled with this, so a massive upgrade for the Z31. And then we'll move on to the rear. This here is the S14 cast iron 4-piston caliper. As you can see here, it's 4.42 kilograms. It's not the heaviest caliper out, but it's certainly not light. Let's get the Z32 one on there. Let's put it on there. 2.7, so almost half the weight. Now, while our 2-ish kilogram saving in the brake caliper doesn't seem like a whole lot when you compare it to the weight of the car, a good, 1,100 kilos a car, it seems like a drop in the ocean. But when you look at it as a percentage of mass that the suspension has to move up and down, which is going to be 15, 20 kilos in totality, 2 kilos is actually a very large saving. So while this is very much a budget build, and while we are fully aware we're not building a time attack champion, a 2 kilogram saving from a brake caliper is well worth it, and these calipers are reasonably available and don't cost a whole lot to get, so why not take the win? So apparently you don't want to split these calipers because the seals in here come in almost none of the kits. Surprisingly, the kit we got, which is for a Subaru Sumitomo, actually comes with those seals, so we're going to go ahead and split these into the two calipers. So we're down here at My Media HQ. Mickey from My Media is nice enough to let us use his sandblaster when we need. They're just around the corner from us, so it's super convenient, saves us having to buy one. I've just done half of one of our brake calipers. It's come up really, really good. There's a couple of bits and pieces of the yellow paint that I've got to get now on a second pass, but otherwise it's come up about as close to new as we're going to get it. So now that we've got our brake pads in, our discs on, our calipers rebuilt, it's time to bleed up the system. Elvis is going to give me a hand bleeding it. Obviously, no brainer. It's a track car. High temp brake fluid is a must. You will boil your average brake fluid, so use something high temp. Use something that's applicable to your car as well. So this car requires a .4 fluid. We're using a .4. Don't just assume. Check it out. Buy the right stuff. There's race fluids in every sort of variant there is. So you spoil it for choice, including from Willwood. They do one to cater to everything. We've got their 600 EXP here. Whenever I'm pouring from a bottle like this, I like to punch 2 holes in it like that, if you can see that from there, guys. One, so it comes out in an easy to control small stream, and this one to let the air come out so it doesn't sort of surge. So I've filled the reservoir up. We'll bleed it up. See what I mean? All right, pump. Hold it down.
These lips are no good, they've got a fair bit of pitting on them. I'll go see what the boss has to say about this.
Alright, so the young fella's been sanding, we've got a bit of pitting. It obviously doesn't look too great, so we'll probably have a chat to Mark and see what he reckons. I reckon spin it, get another one, but we'll see what the boss says.
Get them looking as good as possible, and yeah, make them nice and shiny. It sounds to look good. Yeah. Go to it, man. Make them look shiny.
So the boys have painted these wheels for Sparesbox, got the centers painted. I'm just going to pull the masking off, chuck them in the lips and barrels, put the bolts in, seal it up, put a valve in, finish it off. This is the fun part.
Now that the 300ZX is rolling on some freshly restored 3-piece wheels.
Sorry, mate, that was Simmons. They want their earbuds back.
That's all we have time for this week.
Now, there's a couple of things you guys need to do right now. The first is subscribe to the YouTube channel. The second is leave a comment with what you want to see down below, because we'll probably be able to include it in a couple of episodes in the future. And next week is going to be a pretty exciting one. You go to the dyno with a 300ZX. I check out an M4 race car, and our boss, well, he can't keep his hands off his velvet hammer. Tune in next week.